Okay, good evening, everybody. I will now call our meeting to order. Welcome to all of our counselors and staff. First item is quorum. Madam CAO, do we have quorum?
Yes, we do.
Madam CAO, you need your mic on.
Sorry. Yes, we do have quorum.
Okay. Next is declaration of conflicts of interest. Does anybody here have a conflict of interest they wish to declare? Okay. Next is adoption of the agenda. It would now take a motion to adopt the agenda in its current form. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Esty. I have a seconder, Councillor Savoie. Are we ready for the question? We'll now proceed with the vote. All those in favor of adopting the agenda in its current form, show your consent by saying yes. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Next is the adoption of the minutes from the March 18th, 2025 regular meeting. Do I have a mover to adopt those minutes? Moved by Deputy Mayor Jean Gras. Second. I have a seconder, seconded by Councillor Murray. Are we ready for the question? We'll now proceed with the vote. All those in favor of adopting the March 18th minutes, show your consent by saying yes. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Questions from the public? Do we have any submitted questions?
No,
from the
Madam
public?
Mayor, no questions from the public.
And since there's no one sitting out there, I'm going to assume that means we don't have any others there either. Okay, nothing under petition, request, or delegation?
No.
Okay. So next we have council member reports. This is where I need my list. Okay, first we have Deputy Mayor Jean Gras.
Madam Mayor, I'm going to submit my statements to the CAO, and then she can post them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, Councillor Esty.
Likewise with the deputy mayor.
Okay. Councillor Murray.
I just have nothing to report.
Okay. Councillor Savoie.
Same as the other two councillors. I had the pleasure to assist two meetings in my ward, and I will submit a written report to CAO.
Okay. Thank you. So I will give a brief update. We attended a meeting in Ward 1 with MLA Boudreau. It was her meeting. She did some updates. We answered some questions. It was a very productive meeting. We had our second town hall at the St. Philip Golden Age Club. We're thankful that they hosted us. That was a productive meeting as well, I think. Our next meeting is, and I don't have the date written down, but I'll look it up. Our next town hall is May 8th here. So for those watching at home or online watching later, there's a meeting here May 8th at 7 p.m. and it's a town hall for residents to attend. You do not have to be in this ward to attend. Yesterday we had a meeting with MLA Boudreau, and actually MLA Doucette from Moncton was here, and we had some conversations about this replacement school, so we're pushing for that, and we'll keep you updated as we hear more on that. MLA Monahan was here in the afternoon, so I also caught him up as to what we were speaking about, so both MLAs for Maple Hills are aware. And last evening I was invited to attend the Young at Heart Seniors Group meeting, and that was a success, and congratulations to any of those that are watching. Your volunteer hours are very impressive. Okay, so now we move to bylaws, motions, and resolutions, and the first item is the 2024 financial statement.
Okay, so we'll welcome Serge Richard from Bourque Richard Bouteau. Perfect.
Yes, if you can go on the statements, the general operating fund financial statements. So so go to page 2.
Sorry, my mouse pad is not cooperating.
Next one.
Next one.
So these statements are prepared based on the fund accounting. So these are comparable to your budget. If you look, the total revenues for this year is $4,085,000 compared to the budgeted amount of $2,095,000. So there's about $200,000 more than you had budgeted. Most of it is the building permits, which is $80,000, I think, twice as much as you budgeted, and probably 70% more than last year. Also, there's conditional grants from the province. That $75,000, most of that was balance of reform funding we had from last year, including a $45,000 you got at the end that was just unassigned funds. So your expenditures are $3,845,000 compared to a budget of $3,895,000, which is like 40,000 less, more than budgeted, or less than budgeted. And that we can go sector by sector. So next page, general government, you had budgeted 943,000 and you spent 832,000. There's the larger differences are probably in salaries because of you only had two employees instead of 3 for part of the year. Also, there was probably work, like budgeted amount that work done that wasn't done. The next one is protective services, which is almost identical to the budgeted figures, $10,000 less. Next page is transportation services, which is also comparable to the budget. You budgeted 148,000 and you spent 141,000. Environmental health, it's 79,000 more than budgeted. I think you guys changed in November to services with the regional commission instead of a private contract, or with the province before. So that was, next year will probably be identical to the budget. Solid waste disposition, that one has a little difference as well, just because you got a refund late in the year for probably a tipping fees for the that were less than budgeted. The next department is environmental development, which is identical to the budget because most of the services are through the commission. And the final, the sixth one is the recreation and cultural services, which is 21,000 less than budget. I think part of that was probably because the community center wasn't open quite as much as you thought, like wasn't open for the full year. Next sector would be fiscal services. You had budget 246,000, you spent 264,000. Couple of large differences are the interest on short-term capital project. Those are the two operating lines you have for the outstanding municipal orders. That you actually spent 71,000 and you had budgeted 198,000. But you also had budgeted transfers to reserves of 192, or actually you didn't budget those and you spent 192,000 with two resolutions that you did in a special meeting in December. 105,000 for the general operating reserve and 87,000 for the general capital reserve. If not, your surplus would have been obviously that much more than, instead of 240, it would have been 530. So this is the statements for the general operating fund. So I don't know if there's any questions for that.
Does anybody have any questions for Serge? Okay.
The other statement, I know, is the one that's consolidated. And I'm just going to flag a couple of notes. So if you want to look at note 13 on page 15. These are your reserve balances. So at the end of 2023, you had 45,000 in reserves, and you put 105,000 in general operating fund, plus you gained $1,300 in interest, so your balance is now 151,000. General capital reserve is 87,000. That you didn't have a balance last year, so that's why your balance is 87,174 with the 174,000 interest. The general operating fund does have a limit of 3% of your prior year operating expenditures. So if I look at the calculation, the 151, you're still no, you're not outside, because that would be a limit of 155. So you're still like 4,000 close to the limit. And next year, because your budget increased, you're probably going to be at 192. So, but still, there's probably not much room to put additional funds in your general operating reserve. The next note we can go is probably page 12. Which is the schedule for tangible capital assets. The additions this year is $6,400,000, and obviously didn't spend that much, but some of that is the value of the property of this building before you guys took over. So the other ICC had spent $3,900,000 before you guys took over. So that's just a additional cost and like an additional grant revenue that we put offset that, but still included in your capital additions. Another is the other building, which we put at $400,000 based on the 2023 property assessment. And that is the same thing, it just comes in as other grant that financed that amount. Other additions this year were equipment and computer, including probably most of these equipment that you spent 200-some thousand, and you got financing from the government for $110,000, and the difference was one of the debenture that you have outstanding for $250,000. And the other project, this project here, you spent $1.8 million this year. You got $187 for the naming rights from Moncton Kia. And you got a debenture outstanding that you couldn't go get for $1.6 million. So that's how you finance your additions this year. So the only actual contribution from general operating fund to the general capital fund was the $71,000 in interest on the operating loan. So that's just a summary of mostly we do a revision of the general operating fund, but the consolidated, it's more, it's based on public accounting standards, not the operating fund. So I don't know if there's any questions.
Does anybody have any questions about that? No? I guess you're doing a good job, everybody's.
Yeah. That's it?
That's it?
Perfect.
Okay. All right, so no questions from anybody. So do I have a mover on this? Oh, you do have a question, or you're gonna move?
Yeah.
You have a question for
No,
Serge?
no, it's a question for
Okay,
the CAO. Maybe we could make note of the general reserve limit. So when we're looking this fall to make some moves, we'll, we're almost maxed, right? So we'll probably have to look at either something else.
Yeah,
Just worth noting, I guess.
yeah. The other option we could always do is there's no limit for capital reserve, so
Right.
we can put it in capital just with the understanding that it has to be spent on capital.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
sure.
And I'll also move.
Okay, it's a motion. Thank you, Serge.
Be it resolved that Maple Hills Council accepts the financial reports of the auditor accountant for the 2024 fiscal year as modified by Mr. Serge Richard, CPA of Bork, Richard, Buteau, PC Inc.
Okay, do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councillor Savoy.
Yeah, I can. It's just that it wouldn't be, I had it
Oh,
I had
sorry,
it in
yes.
like two options of as amended if there was a correction to be made. So it's just, we would be adopting them as they are.
Correct. I didn't read the as modified. I just read it as
Okay.
unmodified.
Oh, did you say unmodified?
I didn't read that part because, right,
Okay,
we're not modifying it.
I'm just letting her catch up because she's got to record the votes.
Okay, sorry, I missed the mover and seconder.
So Councillor Esty moved and Councillor Savoy seconded. Okay, are we ready for the question?
Question.
We'll now proceed with the vote. All those in favor of adopting the audit report, the financial statements that we just received, show your consent by saying yes. Yes. Opposed, no. Motion carried. So the next item is the appointment of the auditor for next year. Do I have a mover on that motion? Deputy Mayor Jean Gras?
I have a question.
Okay, I think, don't we do the motion?
We do
Yeah, do the motion first, yeah.
Be it resolved that the Council of Maple Hills appoints the firm Bork, Richard, Buteau, PC, Inc. as auditor for the 2025 financial year.
Okay, So we have a question on that motion. Counselor Esty?
One thing I asked with the previous CAO, and I think I sent him an email, was when it comes to audits and year ends, it's good to have different firms periodically perform the audit because there can be some biases if one firm is always doing it. A lot of organizations have policies where it's up to 3 or 5 years and then they have to go find someone else for like a term. So I'm just wondering if that's a policy that we'd consider at a future session. And I could recommend, either 3 or 5 years. I could say 3 years, but that's my only question is, do you think that we should have a policy regarding that? And can it be something that we discuss at a future meeting?
We can discuss at a future meeting. We'd have to, we can definitely discuss.
Thanks.
I don't disagree with you. I don't know about tying another council into it by making it a policy. That would be my only kind of, I'm not really sure. I'd have to think about that, but definitely we can put it on an agenda to discuss. Okay, so for this motion, do I have a seconder?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Esty. Oh, sorry. You can't write and click at the same time.
Not always.
Are we ready for the question? We'll now proceed with the vote. All those in favor of appointing Burke Richard Bouteau, PC Inc. as our auditor for the 2025 financial year, show your consent by saying yes. Opposed, no. Motion carried. So the next item is grant requests. Do we?
Okay,
So I guess first of all, did everybody saw Chanel's email with the updates to the questions that we had previously at the committee of the whole? Okay. Does anybody have any further questions beyond what we had previously asked and were supplied?
My question is just.
Nope, we gotta use the mics because we're streaming? Okay.
My question is just regarding the motion as it's worded here. Do we present the motion 4 times as we may be not setting the same amount of money for everyone?
Well, I think that's why they're all currently at 0. We'll just, we
So do we
need to
decide-
decide right now what we're putting for the amounts, and then it would be one motion
motion,
saying that this group's getting this, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Deputy Mayor Jean Gras.
What if we vote for one but not another one?
Oh,
That was basically my question.
Yeah.
okay. Okay, well. No, what he's saying is if it's all one motion, but he's opposed to one of the grants, he either has to vote for them all or vote for none because it's all in one motion, right? Okay, so I guess let's start with, does anybody have any that they feel maybe didn't meet the criteria that we shouldn't be considering, or that we maybe want to take off, or maybe want to set aside because we have need more information? Councillor Savoie?
I personally was I'm comfortable awarding the required amount, requested amount for everyone except for the beloved miniature horses,
Okay,
which I'm inclined to vote against.
okay, okay. Deputy Mayor Jean Gras?
Sure. Is this on? Okay. When we started the grant process, and, we have new staff since then, but if I recall, it was pretty much a really big fight. It was probably one of the most contentious policies that we ever put through. And initially, we had 3 tiers, right? We had the tier that we have now. We had one that was more extravagant, and we had another one that was even more so. And they also targeted different groups, okay? So one targeted, individuals, one targeted groups, one targeted organizations. And so, I always go back to what Councillor Esty said, especially when we passed the final version of the policy, and that is, kids, sports, activities for kids and families. These are the things that make me want to, that make me decide which way to vote on these grants. I also want to note that in the past, whenever a new applicant has come up, we haven't given them $500. We've always gone with $250. And the third thing is that we've always been reticent about fully funding a program, like 100% funding. If we become the funding form, like the funding source for one program, I mean, it's pretty much, it feels like it's a municipal program at that point in time. So these are the issues that I have, and I see on a number of these, we are fully funding some of these programs. And so I will be basing my votes on that. And that's all I have to say.
Okay. Do we have any other comments or questions or input? Councillor Murray?
I agree with some things that Deputy Mayor just kind of mentioned. Obviously, I've always been a big proponent of sports and anything to help with kids and families and all that stuff. Elderly too, I think, is a big one though. I don't think we should look at something that just because it's someone's first time applying that we should kind of say it's only $250. That's not part of the, our way we do this is, by the code is that it is up to a certain amount. It doesn't say the first time applicant gets only $250. I don't think we should make a habit of, okay, the first time you apply for something, it's $250 and then the next time it's $500. If that was the case, we should have it in our policy and bylaws that, okay, for the first time you apply, it's $250 and the next time it's $500. But I just think if there's something that's there, it should be, accessible. If they can make the right argument and the right pitch for the money, I think that should be allowed to access the entire $500 if we deem so, by a proper pitch to us, I guess.
Okay. So it sounds like there might be an appetite for not all of the grants to be the full amount that was requested. So let's do it this way then. Let's start with the Club d'Azur Saint Philippe. They were asking for $500 to pay for a tent to use at events that they hold at their facility. Would anyone like to propose a different amount for that grant? Okay, so I think we're all good on that one. So the next one was the Lakeville Community Art Studio. They were asking for $500 for art supplies to run a program for, I believe it was seniors. Was it seniors, Chanel?
It was for anybody that wanted to do arts.
Okay.
Specifically more for people who did not have the means to either purchase the supplies or just kind of have a place that they can go and participate in the craft, even if they're not financially able to.
Okay, and that one they did determine that the instructors are actually, have instructed in art projects in the past.
Yes, so both applicants that brought in the application for us, they have both been instructors in the past.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so, so their request was $500. Does somebody have another amount they would like to propose instead? Councillor Esty?
Just based on the number of participants, they estimate it being 6 to 20. So I'd recommend $250,
Okay.
just because of the reach of the project.
Okay. Does anybody else wish to propose a different amount? Okay, so, sorry, I should have asked you. Okay, okay.
Keep track, yeah.
So the next one is the Beloved Miniature Horses. That was a program that they wanted to do some therapy training. Everybody's read the grant request. We did see that she is certified. Does somebody have another amount they wish to propose for that one? Councillor Savoie?
I propose that we do not accept this proposal.
Okay, do you wish to say, like, oh, you, sorry,
No,
not,
no, I
no,
just,
sorry.
I feel it's not
No,
to the letter of the spirit of the grant policy.
sorry, what I meant to ask was, do you wish to propose another amount?
No, yeah, okay.
My head went the wrong way, sorry about that, okay. Does anyone wish to propose a different amount for that one? Councilor Murray?
I see here that she has the overall cost for it to be 1,200, that was the original amount she requested. 500 is what we have set for our thing. I do think it's good. I know we've had it in the last couple of years. I know we're new, but we've had a hard time getting these people to come forward with grant applications to us. You know, it's if we start turning away people, and this is a thing for the community, for people with mental health, I think that's very important. She does have her certification, everything else. I'd be okay doing the 500, but I just think that, you know, these things are for community. It's community grants. Yes, it's for kids and families and everything else. It's kind of the letter of the law, but I think anything to help the community and somebody that's lives in the community, been here forever, I think it's a good thing for to do. So I'd do the 500 would be my suggestion.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Jean Gras.
I would second Councillor Savoy's just rejection of the application.
Okay. Okay, so I guess we will have to split them then, because it sounds like
Yep,
some
we
would
can,
prefer.
yep,
Okay.
yep.
Okay, and then the last one is the Irishtown 4-H Club, and they were, again, we saw their proposal, it was a portion of the event that they were looking to cover for the cost. Does anyone wish to propose a different amount for that particular grant? So we're all happy with 500, nobody has any opposition or wishes to voice a different amount? Okay. So, Councillor Esty?
With regards to the miniature horses, they estimated that the participation rate would be 6 people, which I believe the art studio was 6 to, I just said it, 6 to 20. It's in that same range. I sort of second the sentiments of Councillor Murray in that I could go 250 on that. I could move on 250.
Okay, so we have so for that particular grant, we have 2 suggestions to withdraw, or to decline, and one at 500 and one at 250. That's where we're at? Okay, so I guess the 250 would be the amount that we'll put.
We haven't really decided anything. They've decided 250.
No.
We've decided 0.
Right, so the motion will be separated,
Okay,
and we'll vote on the motion.
okay,
So we're just settling on an amount to put on the motion.
okay.
Okay. So we're good?
We're good to, yep,
Okay.
we'll do them all separately. So if you want to start with the Club d'Âge d'Or.
Okay, so does somebody want to move on the grant for Club d'Âge d'Or? Councillor Murray?
Be it resolved that council approves the spring 2025 community grants and that the funding be distributed to the following community group in accordance with grant policy P07, Club d'Azur, St. Philippe for 500? Is that for the
Is that
club?
the amount that was moved
Club
on that?
d'Azur?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
that was,
For $500.
okay, do I have a seconder on that motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councillor Savoy. Are we ready for the question?
Question?
We'll now proceed with the vote. All those in favor of approving the grant request for Club d'Âge d'Or de St. Philippe for $500, show your consent by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay, so Lakeville Art Studio, what did we settle on for an amount there?
250.
250.
250, yeah, sorry.
Okay, so do we have a mover to
I
pass?
can move on that one too. I just.
Okay, Councillor Murray?
Be it resolved that council approves the spring 2025 council community grants and that the funding be distributed to the following community group in accordance with grant policy P07, Lakeville Community Art Studio for $250.
Okay, do I have a seconder on that motion? Seconded by Councillor Esty. Are we ready for the question?
Question?
We'll now proceed with the vote. All those in favor of awarding the Lakeville Community Art Studio $250 grant, show your consent by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay, do I have a mover on the beloved miniature horses?
I'll move.
Okay, Councillor Murray.
Be it resolved that council, the camera's still on me, might as well keep one going. Be it resolved that the council approves the spring 2025 community grants and that the funding be distributed to the following community group in accordance with grant policy P07, beloved miniature horses for $250.
Okay, do I have a seconder on that grant? Seconded by Councillor Esty. Are we ready for the question?
Question?
We'll now proceed with the vote. All those in favor of granting the beloved horse grant of beloved miniature horses $250 grant, show your consent by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no?
No.
Okay.
So,
So I guess at this point, I break the tie. So I think that I would have to agree with Councillor Murray and Councillor Esty that I think we should give them a chance to try it out and see how it goes. And I'm actually looking forward to hearing how that one goes. So I would vote yes to award them $250. Okay, and then the last one.
Can we just, point of order? Just congratulate you on your first vote.
Thank you. Okay. So the last grant request was for the Irishtown 4-H Club. Do I have a mover?
I'll
Councillor
move.
Murray?
Be it resolved, the council approves the spring 2025 community grants and that the funding be distributed to the following community group in accordance with the grant policy P07, Irishtown 4-H Club for $500.
Do I have a seconder on that motion? Second. Seconded by Councillor Esty. Are we ready for the question?
Question?
We'll now proceed with the vote. All those in favor of awarding the grant for $500 to the Irishtown 4-H Club, show your consent by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay. Well, there, we all did something different this evening.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next item is the application for financing, item on the agenda. Do I have a mover on that item, and then we can take questions if we have any? Nobody wants to move?
oh, I'll move. Okay, you move. if you want.
Okay, Councillor Savoy.
Be it resolved that the clerk and mayor be authorized to issue and sell the New Brunswick Municipal Finance Corporation, a local government of Maple Hills, debenture in the principal amount of $2,700,000 on such term and condition as are recommended by the New Brunswick Municipal Financial Corporation. And be it resolved that the local government of Maple Hills agree to issue a postage check payable to the New Brunswick Municipal Finance Corporation as and when they are requested in payment of principal and interest charges on the above debenture.
Okay, do we have a seconder or question? Second. Seconded by Councillor Esty. Are we ready for the question?
Question.
We'll now proceed with the vote. All those in favor of approving the application for financing, show your consent by saying yes.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. So the next item is 2024 to 2028 capital investment plan for the Canada Community Building Fund.
Perfect. Would you like me to speak on it, or?
Please, CAO,
Okay.
CAO Downey, I almost said this year.
Okay.
It's an old habit.
I don't think I uploaded a request for decision on this, but. So I worked with Englobe on this just to make sure that everything was going to be okay, because essentially we're in a little bit of a time crunch. If we are to proceed with spending some of the Community Canada Building Fund funds, with the timeline that we've been given in the proposal for drainage and stormwater and parking, and so essentially, I think you guys understand that the CCBF have to approve this capital investment plan before any funds can be started, or any of the project can be started or funds spent. So we did it in, after consulting with somebody from the CCBF office or community financing, that it's separated into 3 separate projects. I also want to remind council that this is, even though this goes to the province for approval, it's still a working document. So what we put in here does not necessarily mean that this is what it's going to be. But it gives them a roadmap, and ironically enough, literally a map, because they want to pinpoint on their online portal where gas tax or CCBF money is being spent, which is why you see the latitude and longitude coordinates there. So essentially, the province signs off on a capital project as long as it aligns with the stipulations. And then if council determines, okay, well, actually, we're only gonna spend this, we need to do an upgrade here, we go back to this, we have a second motion from council to amend the capital plan, we send that back, and it's the same process. So because the amounts are, what you see there for the amounts are the entirety of the 5-year CCBF allotments or funding, doesn't mean that it's going to be spent. So the 3 projects, we have them split up into is the stormwater portion, stormwater paving portion, the actual 5-year capital plan, and the asset management plan. So that's why it's sort of broken down into 3. Does council have any questions about?
Anyone have any questions? I think we've talked about this a fair amount. Oh, Councillor Sabo, did you have a question?
No,
Oh.
no, Mr.
Okay. Okay, so does someone want to move on adopting this plan? Okay, Councillor Esty?
There's a typo in the motion, which won't read. Be it resolved that the document titled Maple Hills 5-Year Capital Investment Plan for the Canada Community Building Fund 2024-2028 be adopted.
Okay, do I have a seconder on the motion? Seconded by Councillor Murray. Are we ready for the question?
Question.
We'll now proceed with the vote. All those in favor of adopting the capital investment plan as presented, show your consent by saying yes. Opposed, no. Motion carried.
That's one entitled document.
Okay, so the next item is new parking lot and drainage upgrades. So CAO Downey, did you want to add anything before we?
I think I put just about as much as I could in the request for decision form. But definitely happy to answer any questions that I can. I want to, maybe we'll just wait for Councillor Esty to come back. I think he's just grabbing a drink.
So does anyone have any questions while we wait? Councillor Savoy?
I'm sorry. So if this motion passes, that's just to get quotes, like to get, to go to tender?
To start the tender process,
Okay.
yes, yeah. But it would essentially be based on, like my recommendation is the option 2. And I put that just based on conversations that I've heard between, councillors here at this table, is that they weren't looking to spend all of the gas tax in one particular ward. Having said that is why I went with more of the option 2. So the tender process would be essentially, Englobe would prepare the tender based on what they think is gonna fall with it at that number range. Because what they presented were just like preliminary numbers. They won't have anything concrete until they actually start the tender process. Okay.
This is just for my, curiosity.
Yeah.
Are you putting out the tender, or is Englobe putting out the tender?
No, it's way above my knowledge of,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
what's needed. Yeah.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions? Okay, so did we want to move to proceed with,
I'll move.
okay, moved by Councillor Savoy, you want to,
Whereas Phase 1 of New Brunswick Hub Project, new recreational hub project funded through the Canada Community Building Fund, CCBF, in 2022 has been completed, and the facility is now actively serving as a central avenue for local events, recreational programming, and community engagement. And whereas Phase 2 of the project is focused on wetland restoration, enhancing stormwater management, upgrading the parking lot to reduce congestion, improve safety, and increase accessibility to both community center and residents and visitors. And whereas council has reviewed the proposed concept presented by Englobe Corporation for parking lot upgrades and as part of Phase 2 of the New Brunswick, the new recreational hub project. And whereas project constraint has been considered in the selection of a cost-effective and preliminary design for the parking
No,
lot
Mark,
improvement.
Mark. Cost-effective and functional solutions.
Sorry, I'm having a hard time with my
The,
glasses
yeah,
here.
the sentence starts with "and whereas."
And whereas budget constraint has been considered in the selection of cost-effective and functional resolution. And be it resolved that council approves option 2 of the proposed concept of the recommended preliminary design for the parking lot improvements. And be further resolved that the tender package include an optional crushed rock overflow parking area to accommodate additional stalls, thereby allowing the council to make a fully informed decision upon review of the submitted tenders and associated costs.
Okay. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Murray. Are we ready for the question?
Question.
We'll now proceed with the vote. All those in favor of proceeding with the tender process for the parking lot, show your consent by saying yes.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay, so the next item is the Fitness Center Wellness Initiative.
I apologize, that motion was so lengthy, Councillor Savoy, and I did not translate it yet because I wasn't sure if you guys were going to change anything. Okay, so the Fitness Wellness Initiative, just going to open my request. So this is, I brought this to council in hopes that a decision could be made as far as the donation that's coming from Medavi. There's a portion that is owed to our property management as part of our agreement. So that leaves us with $75,000 of the donation, with eligible expenses including fitness, audio, visual equipment, storage, and flooring. We have obtained some quotes, but I'm kind of stuck in this limbo stage of whether council wants to proceed with that or not. The other thing for consideration is that if we are turning down the donation, then essentially our contract for TH Sports would be impacted. They wouldn't be receiving their portion.
So, okay, so I guess, as with the last one, we need a mover before we can start questioning. So does someone want to move? Councilor Murray's going to move.
Whereas the original design of the Maple Hills Center included a designated space for a future fitness center, and whereas the component was removed from the initial project scope due to budget constraints, and whereas Maple Hills has recently received a $100,000 donation from Medavi in support of the Community Wellness Initiative, with eligible expenses including fitness and audiovisual equipment, storage, and flooring, and whereas quarterly reports outlining the use of the funds, construction progress, and individuals directly impacted by the initiative are required to be submitted to Medavi beginning September 2025. Be it resolved that council authorize administration to proceed with the procurement and development of the fitness center space within the Maple Hills Center in alignment with the funding parameters outlined by Medavi, and ensures timely reporting obligations are met.
Okay, so it looks like we have some questions on this motion. Councillor Savoy.
I have two questions. I don't mean to reopen the debate on percentage of how much TH Sport is receiving from the grant. However, is it feasible for us to ask that they invest part of the money they keep in that said gym?
They are under the same requirements that we are for the portion of the funds that they received, that it has to go to programming or audiovisual or storage or flooring, like that full amount, even the portion that they get, has to be invested in those items.
And my second comment or question, in regards to communication that we received about possibly keeping a percentage for maintenance and future upgrades. Can we decide that as a percentage? As
So-
opposed to a fixed amount, we can decide on a percentage?
I guess that's a question for this.
Initially, yeah,
So I think there was some confusion. I guess my question was simply, if we're gonna pass this motion, are we passing it as the full amount is being spent on this motion? Or are we going to take some of the funds and potentially use them down the road to add another piece of equipment or to add, that was what the communication was about, was deciding, is this motion going to include the entire amount or not? That's all the communication was for,
Okay.
just to have that
But
conversation.
is it feasible to keep a percentage for, what's the word I'm looking for? Operations or,
No, well, it has
no,
to be,
it's not hold back, it's just,
But that's an allocation, like that'd be a whole.
it has to be spent on these items that were
oh, I
listed
would
in the
still be, it
motion.
would still, I'm,
Right,
I mean,
it was
to-
just, are we gonna, like, spend it all at the same time, or are we gonna put a bunch in and then see, like, okay, we've got this much left, we need another treadmill, or we need more
okay,
weights,
okay, I
or
see
like.
what you're saying.
Yeah, just because the space is not, massive, we don't wanna, I just wanted to know council's feeling on that, that was all that question was about. Oh, sorry, did you wanna add?
can wait.
Oh, okay. Deputy Mayor Jean.
So my concerns with the, it's with the entire gym, is that we just had them up there, not too long ago, and, the banging on the floor while we have council. And not only that, but it's just, as Councillor Savoy alluded to, that there will be operational costs moving forward. This will be a line item in our budget. And, I just foresee, if allowing the public up there as well, that, it's gonna involve in the future an elevator, it's gonna involve like a whole bunch of different things. And really, I just have trouble swallowing this. And that's just a comment I had to make.
I think we're talking about this room on this side behind the mezzanine, right? Not the room above us?
That's
Just
right.
so everybody's clear?
Okay.
We're not talking about the room above us, we're talking about the room that already has the gym equipment across the hallway.
Okay.
In our previous committee of the whole, we had decided that this wasn't an option for the reason that the deputy mayor just stated, the noise, so. Councillor Murray?
On record for everybody watching, if they ever do, this money is solely for this one thing. It's not for us. Menavie wouldn't sponsor it for anything else. It's either we get, $75,000 to, help enrich the community, or we just don't. So in that way, I know there's extra expenses and stuff. I know there will be line items down the road, but it's still $75,000 worth of items that we get for essentially free, thanks to Menavie with their donation. We get that for free, which I don't think we're going to get anywhere else for a gym in the future. So,
Okay. Councillor Esty?
I guess my comment would be kind of in line with what Councillor Savoy said. If I'm kind of trying to understand what you meant, I think I might agree, it's that if we spend it all up front, there may be an expense down the road. But the way you explained it, I think you were including things that weren't eligible, but I think what you're saying could be true, where if we were to allocate 50 now for the most important things, and we hold back 25 for another 6 months, because it says here that we just have to update them quarterly beginning September of '25. So if we did 50 now for the most urgent things that they think they need for the community, for programming, and then we hold back 25 for 6 months, and then we could see how it's going, what the need is, because maybe if we give it time, there might be some new ideas then, which might not exist right now.
Okay,
So I'd move for 50, I guess.
okay. Anybody else? So I think because the motion was read at 100, which actually, or no, I guess we don't have an amount in it, yeah.
No, it's just,
Okay.
yeah, it's just to begin the procurement process.
Okay.
Oh, you're right.
So do we,
Then I'll second it.
Can I add just
So-
a couple things, Madam
oh,
Mayor?
sorry, yes,
Okay.
sure.
So I've already spoken with somebody at RDC to review an application of what contribution RDC could have. Based on the full, I think we did the full 100,000, thinking that like TH Sports would also contribute. And the quotes that we've received, they've been looked at by Dr. Michelle Johnson, who I think you guys were aware already looked at that gym space for the future fitness area. And I basically, I received a letter from him this afternoon, like reviewing the equipment, just his professional opinion on that we're going in the right direction of what we're looking at. So it's not, like I told him, we're looking at it's community use. It's not for anything else other than just the regular Joe wanting to go in there and work out. So I did get a letter from him, but I think, if I could just have a minute to just look at the letter from Medavie, because I think I put in there September, but I believe there's an end date to have the final report. If I could just have a moment to look at that, I just want to make sure.
So sorry, while you're looking, I had forgotten that we had discussed this, but we did discuss RDC. So RDC, we were asking if they would match some of the funds, correct?
At like a 60-40, I'm hoping, but it might not, they may not have it.
Oh, we don't,
To
so
give
we don't
that?
have a response on that
No,
yet?
no.
Okay,
And
okay.
also, like, the way this was read, we're only authorizing administration.
To proceed with
Right, so
procurement
we
and,
don't- We can start that even kind of irrespective of this end date.
true, I guess I'm just asking, do we need, like, does council feel we need to have an amount in there, or?
Doesn't hurt to have the end date anyways.
Because they're gonna make a recommendation based on this, like, they're probably gonna have a recommendation, like, we recommend that you do this now and this later, so it might be premature to just arbitrarily pick a 50 like I did earlier, when they may come back and want 65.
Okay.
Right, we just don't know yet. So
Okay,
like,
okay. No,
there's no
if
harm in
everyone's
like
comfortable,
going through the motion and like seeing what they come back with.
I just didn't want someone to come back after the fact and say, well, we thought there'd be, we didn't
Right.
think it would all be spent. I just wanted to make sure if we didn't have a comfort level of sort of letting it ride, that we acknowledge that. So if we're happy with the motion the way it was presented, sorry, did you find your,
I did, so the final report is due September 2026.
okay, so we have till next September, okay. So, yeah, if everyone's comfortable with it the way it is, I'm good. I just I didn't want there to be any misconceptions or misunderstandings about, we come back later and, oh, well, I thought it would only be this, so. Okay, so if everyone is satisfied with the motion in its current form, do I have a seconder on the motion in its current form? Seconded by Councillor Esty. Are we ready for the question? We'll now proceed with the vote. All those in favor of proceeding with the motion presented on the Fitness Center Wellness Initiative, show your consent by saying yes. Opposed, no. Okay, and the last topic is the bylaw enforcement services proposal. So do we have somebody who wants to read the motion so that we can start any conversation? Okay. Deputy Mayor Jean Gras.
Whereas the responsibility for managing dangerous or unsightly premises was to be transitioned from the Minister of Local Government to the rural community of Maple Hills as part of the local governance reform, and whereas under Local Governance Act SNB 2017, C-18, Section 72 states a council may appoint bylaw enforcement officers for the local government and may determine their terms of office. Be it resolved that the rural community of Maple Hills, isn't it Maple Hills rural community? Anyways, I'm just, accept the proposal from Maritime Enforcement Services in response, it's just something for the CIO to think about, to the request for patrol, intervention, and enforcement services by officers responsible for municipal bylaw enforcement and approve the option of 8 hours per week at a cost of $28,245 plus HST, with the services to commence on January 1st, 2026.
Okay. Wow, if anybody's watching, they're thoroughly entertained this evening. We're quite a rowdy bunch. Counselor Esty.
It was my understanding that there may be some information regarding some shared service possibilities, which we may want to explore before voting on this.
Okay.
So where it was already read, I was going to move that we stay the motion until that time when we can get that information and sort of compare.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Counselor Savoie?
The shared service that RSC is looking into, would be from the same supplier?
As, from what I understand, we really haven't gotten a whole lot further than this is the list of services they're looking into potentially allowing or reaching out to see about shared services on. We haven't had another meeting, so that was how we left it, sort of, was,
So my
They would-
follow-up question would be, would the provider have a limit, like a deadline for us to sign a contract with them to guarantee the prices for January?
I guess, I can't answer that, maybe the
With
CAO.
Maritime Enforcement Services?
Yeah.
They've not really given us a deadline, no, it's just, no, I mean, they're offering it now for January 1st, so I can't imagine that they would
Okay.
change their prices. The only thing that they offered was if we wanted to take over the services immediately and get files started, they offered a significant decrease or reduction in the price if we wanted to start now. But I just didn't see it fair because taxpayers are already paying that to the minister, so.
Okay, so, first of all, are there any other questions on this motion? Okay, so if we choose to proceed, we'll need a seconder, and if we choose not to proceed, then, so do I have a seconder on this motion? Okay. Okay, so we'll table this for now and try, hopefully have another urban, non-urban meeting soon, or reach out to the commission and see if they have an update for us. I agree that we don't want to wait till November to do this, but if there's an opportunity to share the service and maybe save a little, I think that's not a bad idea. Okay.
One more thing, Madam
Oh,
Mayor.
sorry. Sure, CAO
So
Downey?
just to keep this ball rolling, I probably will present a motion for you guys to, well, we'll start talking about it, but basically a bylaw. We need two things. We need a bylaw enforcement officer and we need a bylaw. So, rather than waiting until we have the services established, we can at least start the first reading of a bylaw.
Right, because we would make it effective January 1st,
Yes.
2026, so, okay,
Yeah.
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 We have to take it over either way, so, okay, nope, that's fair. Okay, so the last item is unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business?
Let me just check my folder. I don't think I do. Maybe I'll just so we have it on record. The deadline, and you guys are gonna see this because we'll be going, if we are going to proceed with following the tender process, and then council wants to proceed, the next hearing date is June 9th for the Municipal Capital Borrowing Board. So those are, just so council's aware, if we're gonna proceed with spending the gas tax, CCBF funding, we have a portion of it, but we don't have all of it. So there's gonna be the need to go to the capital borrowing board to get a ministerial order to borrow the funds up front. And that's the sort of process where it has to be put in the newspaper. It has to be advertised twice, and then it's brought to the board, June 9th. So my deadline for the final date to submit an application to apply for funding is May 7th. So I will work with Englobe to see how quickly we can get like the tender process out. We may miss that date. And of course, July and August, there's no hearing. So I have some scrambling to do, essentially.
So if we miss the May date, the next date I see there is August? Or-
Yes, well, August for the first time to
Deadline,
have it,
and then September for the hearing?
Yes.
Okay.
yeah. And by September, the project should be done. So it's unfortunate that it's kind of taken us this long to kind of come up with a plan, but we can only do what we can only do. So,
So at this stage, if we had a tender in time, we would have to have a special meeting to vote on the tender?
absolutely.
Okay, just so everyone's aware.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, that is, any other unfinished business?
No, that was
Okay.
all.
It would now take a motion to adjourn. Do I have a mover? Moved by Counselor Esti. Meeting adjourned.